This podcast is supported by Siemens, your partner for industrial-grade AI.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of our Industrial AI podcast. My name is Robert Weber and it's a pleasure to talk to
Peter Seberg. Good morning, Robert. Hello. Good morning, afternoon, whatever to any of you, dear listeners. And before we're going to start, Robert, let me play to you this piece I recorded a couple of minutes ago.
What? Oh, thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much.
Could you hear it?
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll send you the original so we can maybe listen to it better. Yeah, I assume that everybody could hear what it means, your birthday. We're not going to share your age.
No, too young.
Too young, yes. That was the thing I was going to say, because then people know how young that you are. So what are we going to talk about, Robert?
So 2 new models have been launched. OpenAI has shown something, Google too, faster, smaller model. And I think what interesting is the smartphone took the center stage.
I'm completely with you, yeah.
Yes.
Interaction on the smartphone, exactly. Yeah. I was thinking about that as well. And actually, I did try it this morning because I am on an OpenAI plan. Now, the other thing is that, as far as OpenAI is concerned, is now for everybody, right? So even the people not paying, right? But I did exactly that. I had the ChatGPT on my phone, but I haven't really been using it. But this morning I did. Very good point. Interaction was the big thing for both the models, right?
Yeah, and smaller models modeled on the edge, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Now, I had 2 kind of voices. One is Peter, I'll share in a moment. Sasha Pallenberg was the other guy, and he was also doing this interview, and he was doing it in German. And there you could see the difference. If you would compare it to those of you listeners, not sure you, Robert, yesterday, day before looked at, or, now it's a couple of days back, the demos by Mira Morati, the OpenAI CTO, and her colleagues. That was rather really interactively. In case of the German, it was a little bit, there were a couple of seconds between and he couldn't interrupt. And even when he asked the voice, the model, should I say she or her?
Her. Yeah.
Is that the name of the movie a couple of years back with an amazing foresight, right? Because now it's exactly happening like that. And in that case, the German voice was saying, yes, you cannot interrupt me. And while I believe in the general presentation, it was that, yes, you can. And I think Greg Brockman was also showing that he can very well interrupt.
What inspired me was this "Be My Eyes." And now think on our shop floor. Imagine you can film a machine or a process or a problem.
Yeah.
Or thinking even further, you film a process and it writes code for you for this process. Is that far away? Maybe.
No, it's not far away.
But that's the next step. You see there a robot or whatever, and the robot is doing things, and you film it and be my eyes, and then say, what is the robot doing? Please write code for me. Maybe. I'm not sure. But
most certainly. And the example was, it's a great looking forward specifically. I was going to say at the beginning, not sure what this means for our industrial listeners' applications, but there you go. That is already the big one. I mean, it's a complete interaction between at least humans and machines, right? And they were giving the example of blind people. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
The guy was standing in front of Buckingham Palace, as an example, and the model was telling the blind person,
the model or it?
Yeah, right. Whatever we're gonna find a way to call it, and it was telling him that the flag was there, which means the king is at home. Is that what it means? I
Yeah,
believe, right?
yeah, exactly.
And then he was asking, what do you see? Oh, well, the ducks are swimming there. And you forwarded it to, yes, very correctly. We are the Industrial AI podcast, after all, into the production environment. And you're completely right. And what does that, by the way, mean to the complete augmentation, the glasses, the glasses that
Yeah,
I've never been a real friend of? I was thinking yesterday, what is the other company, this big new thing where you're going to have this?
the rabbit.
Is that the piece that you're going to put in front of your breast, kind of, it's
Yeah,
looking
the
at you?
rabbit. Yeah,
Is that how it's
goodbye
called?
rabbit.
Okay. So I'm not sure that these pieces are going to be, pushing away our smartphone as we have it today. I think people are so, and as you correctly saw it yesterday, were both presentations, they were exactly, and the other one was then, I was called from Google, they call it Astra. Is that right?
Yep, yep.
There you go. And it correctly. Now, people were asking, that's a little bit sad that Google has had really negative experiences or
And a really crazy
putting
presentation.
stuff in the world like in a negative way through demos. So people were
It was a
saying,
weird presentation, I think. Yes.
but it was very interesting.
Yeah,
And
but
again, the question is,
the
if
show
it
behind this was very weird. Yeah.
yeah, but if it is, if that is the capabilities, and I was doing the same thing this morning, as you say, I did it then with the GPT-4o, and I was making a picture. I was not having video. Maybe I still need to do that. I was asking, what do you see? And it was explaining what it saw on my screen. That was the other thing that we saw yesterday.
Mhm.
I think in both cases, they would say, look at this code. What is this code? I asked the same thing this morning. What do you see on my screen? And it was say, oh, this is from LinkedIn. Person A saying person B, it's about me. I think it was saying it's about me. It's amazing.
And what also was an impression, they are both B2C focused. I think, from my point of view, if you look at the setting, it was a living room atmosphere, It was not, we are doing some scientific technology stuff. So it was very comfy, very easy. It was living room, a kitchen a bit, That's the setting where this all happens. And then was this
Yes.
education stuff with the child. So it's
Yes.
very focused on B2C. Yeah.
Yes. But our job, and that's what you already did, our job is to understand
Translate,
it and to put it into the factory.
Yeah.
That's what you already started doing. And that's what I'm sure you, listener, I'm sure that 95% of you have already seen and heard of this. And nevertheless, we're talking about it, have already done the same thing. You see what we're doing in a B2C, what we are being offered in a B2C environment. And we say, oh, how can we use this? Yeah, I think it's kind of, people say mind blowing, a game changer. Peter Gostav says the default model everyone should be using. If that's going to be the case or not, I'm not sure. But interactivity was the big thing. Everyone is the other word. I'm paying. The other thing, of course, is what does that mean? Should I will continue, I believe, to pay. I'm not now saying, oh, go for OpenAI. Not at all. This was my choice. Your choice, dear listener, should be your choice. That's not the point of saying, but everybody will soon be able to use this. Of course, it does imply that very soon the paying user must get something more.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, absolutely.
must be. There must be something
Absolutely.
must be coming.
Yeah, absolutely. But my second point, what surprised me, was this 3D creation. You remember this? To build 3D models out of an image.
2D images, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't see that 2D.
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple of months back. Was it shown now as well?
Yeah, it was shown now. And that reminds me to Jan Seiler's episode, Can Machines Build Machines? And that's what it was always also quite impressive to see how fast you can develop now a 3D model out of, you can write, give me a 3D model of a table, and then you can download the file of the 3D model.
This brings me back. You're a young guy, almost as long as that you're old today. When I started programming at that time in the architecture department, started planning wireframe models of buildings, right? That's, we're really talking 40 years back. And you're right. Now you just, do it, build it, here's a picture, or do it, or yeah, it's amazing. Now, the third thing that was kind of related directly, it was as spotted by Sebastian Illing. I saw you saw that. I think you mentioned Anthropic as well. He says maybe it's the end of the prompting. He says, Anthropic just ended the era of prompt engineer because he's been playing with what Anthropic calls the prompt generator, and he's very impressed by it. And I say that's one. But the other thing is, I've been not, oh, Peter has been seeing it. No, not at all. But I've been requesting it. I've been saying, sure, it's perfectly okay for a couple of months or for half a year. How long have we been doing prompting? Half a year, maybe a year. But I think the time of prompting is over. If you can talk to it, to the model, to he or to she, and she or he is an expert on your topic more than anybody else, why should you put time and effort in to take courses in trying to understand how this thing opposite of you behaves? And of course, I was so convinced it must be the job of those that give us these models, in this case, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, all the other ones. Of course, I did expect that they should put that functionality on their side, not on the human side. I mean, we as humans, we should be able to do exactly, I believe, as the demos we've been seeing the last 2 days. Ask the model, what do you see? How can you help me? This is my question, etc., etc., etc.
And after the presentation, there was the big news that Ilya is now looking for a new job.
Oh, yeah. You shared that this morning here.
Yes.
I've been looking with an interview with Ilya just a day back. I was going to share it, actually. And then it was moving into, now let me sure that I'm not mixing up people here. Maybe better forget it before I make a big mess of myself here. Yeah, somebody was making a suggestion where he was maybe moving.
Maybe to Linz, yeah. Maybe.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean Linz? What is in Linz?
What is in Linz? Yeah, Günther Klambauer already answered to his tweet, so maybe Linz is an opportunity for him, but we don't know. It's only rumors.
Yeah. To be part of NXAI and the anti-transformer XLSTM, right? That was maybe the suggestion. Well, and then the final thought I had with this, maybe the fourth thought was like, all of this is showing the need for even more CPU, especially when I saw Sasha's interview. I don't think it was a bandwidth thing. I must say, I wasn't sure the demo that we saw in the living room with Mira, they had a cable connected. So, but I think that was just to make sure they had a connected internet, right? So that was just the connectivity bandwidth. I think Sasha was saying it's not the bandwidth, I believe. It must be wherever it is based. And you already talked about the edge. There was a suggestion that there's going to be an announcement from Apple soon as well. That was not officially as part of this, so don't blame me for it if that's not going to come. But in the end, it's showing the need for even more CPU all the time. So if we have more CPU, if we have more power, if we are going to get it, as all of us know, Apple is working on, but of course not only Apple. And if we're going to have these kind of models, at least a part of it, and then soon we're going to have them completely, because Moore's law is not that. Mr. Moore is that, think of him, but his law continue. And if we would have had an application like this one, my colleagues at Intel, the 1990s, myself, our job was to always look for CPU-hungry applications. Well, here it is. So congratulations, NVIDIA, Intel, all the other ones, your job, it is to deliver ever faster microprocessors.
What else do you have? You have a Gen AI and time series, right?
Yeah, that was the other big news.
Yeah.
It was the first one I saw. I hadn't actually seen it. There was a Gen AI for time series. It was first shared by Mitko Fazilev. His tagline is, I just want to share it with you, just that you know where he comes from. He says, make sure you own your AIs in the cloud and not aligned with you. It's aligned with the company that owns it. I just want to share that. That's Mitko's view. It's not my view. Perfectly okay, but it's Mitko's view. And he tested not just one, but 3 open source, there you go, foundational models. It was the IBM Tiny Time Mixer, is it called? And then the Google Times FM. That's the one that I spent a little bit of time on. And then the third one was the Auton Labs Moment from Carnegie Mellon. Okay. And he says in the classical machine learning sense, there's not one algorithm. We've always in the past, the last couple of years when we did classical machine learning, he said, is there one? Is it a tree? Is it a classical? Is it a combination of them? What is it? And one was typically getting better than the others, but not always. But he says the transformer model seems to be the Swiss Army knife for all those use cases. At least for the moment, let's see what XLSTM is going to do there. Now,
do you have a link to share?
Yeah, most certainly. I think you have it as well. But yeah, we can. We will share it. Yeah, sure, most certainly. Now, there's a couple of papers, and the reason that I came and looked into the paper, and I was thinking, how can this have been that I didn't see this? Now, the trigger is that the Times of M foundation model for time series forecasting that was accepted at the ICML 24, and I believe that was in Vienna last week, right?
Hmm.
Wasn't Sepp saying that, for that reason, he was maybe waiting still for
Yeah,
specific
exactly, exactly,
feedback? And
exactly.
we saw a couple of people, a couple of well-known names in Vienna. I didn't know the ICML until that time. Now, so this Google model then is pre-trained on they say 100 billion real world time points,
Wow.
zero-shot performance. Now, I, of course, wanted to know if there was any reason for or against why these models, in this case, it was specifically the Times FM, because there is this chart, and we're going to share 2 points out of it. They have been trained on hourly data, daily data, monthly or yearly, right?
Hmm.
I see it in here: electricity, hourly, the traffic, hourly, the weather, 10 minutes. Now, and I want to know, is there any reason for or against that these models for that reason also are going to work in our industrial real time, which is milliseconds up to nanoseconds time series. And then Mitko, he says he compared it to a project that took him almost a year, cost loads of money, more than €1 million services cloud credits. And he says the discrepancies in failure predictions, the trend differences, they were minimal. So
Okay.
he's saying he is very precise, 3.5 hours. And he's comparing that with the project that took him a year and more than, not him, I guess his customer, more than 1 million.
And you should do an interview with him.
Yeah, most certainly. One of
Yeah.
us should. Yeah, you, dear listener, Robert and I always talk about our plan, what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, remind me in a moment.
Yeah.
So, what can I say? Fabian Bause, but not only you, Fabian. I mean, Robert, you discussed with Fabian, it's only 2 weeks ago, on exactly this topic. And Fabian was saying at that time, why he had started at that time with Beckhoff with, I think, a vision-based models. And he was saying, well, the time hasn't been ready for a time series right now. It feels like, and not only for Fabian, for everybody else, and it must be almost all of you listeners, because time series they are, and I believe they will stay at least for as far as we can logically look into the future, a couple of years. We call it A and O. I think in English it's called the alpha omega of industrial data.
Time series is a good topic because Marco Huber also has a new paper, AutoML for time series. Also very interesting. I will do a
Okay.
recording with him.
Very good. So, yeah, I think they are the two big topics. There's always so many things going. It's really crazy. It doesn't stop, right? I mean, I move them a day or two, and I put them in my 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning with the idea that maybe, I'm going to share this thing tomorrow because,
But
you
but
don't
I
want
think it always comes in 1 week. So
yeah.
1 week is fully packed with news, and then we have 2 weeks we can
Yeah.
relax, and then we have 1 week with everything.
Yeah, which is not completely a coincidence. These
Yeah.
marketing business people knowing that their competitors doing one thing, they then sit together and decide, does that mean that what are they exactly going to do? What did you hear? They meet in the evenings, have a beer, and they hear one or two things from the competition. And then they decide if they're going to sit the day before or the day after, if they believe they're going to be better or good, or maybe in this case, they knew they were going to be very similar, right? And then I take this piece of information and I think today I've shared enough. I don't want to overload the algorithm, basically. So I put it tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. What was news 24 hours earlier is not news anymore.
Yeah.
You cannot share it because
Exactly.
if you share it 24 hours later, people think, well, is this guy crazy or what? The news
Yeah.
is something else. It's amazing.
So, Peter, let's talk briefly about AI in the Alps because I have planned the hike this week, and it will be a very, very cool event this year at AI in the Alps.
Yeah, I'm very, very much looking forward to as well.
Next AI is part of the group. Yeah, I'm very proud that the guys are there.
I talked to Fabian from Harvey
Yeah.
yesterday, and he said, "Oh yeah, okay, then we're going to see each other in because there's something we're probably going to do together in October." And he said, "No, no, no, we're going to see each other in the Alps." They said, "Oh yeah, looking forward to it." And you shared a link where our walk is going to be because we've
Hike. Yeah.
for those people that do not know, when we started in the Alps, we go to a place where you've been going like as a child, so you
Yeah.
know it by heart. And then the first time we went there, we did a hike along, what is it? Is it a small water or
It's
river? I
Lech.
don't know.
It's a Lech. It's a river.
Is that the Lech actually?
Yeah.
Okay, the river Lech, yeah, right. And this time you suggested we go another place, right?
Exactly. We go up to the mountain and we will meet at the Wolf.
Okay, the Wolf. And we don't meet in the snow. If you go to the Wolf, it's all about snow. But I
Yeah,
think
but it's also in summer, it's also quite nice
right.
there.
And for those of you that haven't been a part of this, it's not only about hiking. We
No,
do meet for 2 days and we do talk about industrial AI applications, technologies. Now, we've had from the beginning our friend Sepp Hochreiter with us, and we have a couple of new guys today, which you know better than I, Robert.
Schaeffler is there, Bosch is taking part, KSB is there, Siemens, of course, is there. Then we have Leutze, Lenze, Vitron. Yeah, it's a
The
nice
who is
mix.
who of
Yeah,
industrial AI/logistics, yeah. And also
exactly.
we have Johannes Brandstetter, we have
And that would be unthinkable without our partners. I think we should tell this because
yeah, most
special thanks
certainly.
goes to Jonas and Hannover Messe.
Yeah, we're very grateful that they support us in being able to organize this master event.
I am in the Alps in July in Zug am Arlberg. It's near Lech. I'm really looking forward.
AI in the Alps.
Peter, I'm going to eat my birthday cake now.
Very good.
And we go to the main part, and Dubro from Continental is waiting there because we want to discuss the AI strategy by Continental. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for your little song at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, very, very, you're very welcome. Enjoy your birthday,
Thank you.
and we'll see each other soon and hope to hear from you. Hope you to listen in very soon, dear listener, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Robert Weber, and my guest today is Dubravko Dolic, and he works for Continental. Dubro, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Robert. Nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot. Before we start talking about how do you identify AI use cases at Continental, please introduce yourself briefly to the listeners, Dubro.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dubravko Dolic, short just Dubro, and I'm working for Continental. And I like to be a little bit more specific. I'm working for Continental Tires. So the real thing, some products, yes, sure. We also have automotive. We have Contitech. That's all a very big company. The part of tires is really fascinating in terms of AI. I entered the company 7 years ago. Before that, I was self-employed for a long, long time. Originally coming out of the field of statistics, developing into IT and all these nice data topics.
A real expert today. With a statistic background, I think that's the best combination when you want to start AI. Or am I wrong?
Well, it's a good starting point, I would say. But the best, not sure. I think that it's also super important to have a good deal of IT, software development knowledge, all these things. In the early years of my career, I was astonished how little expertise in those topics like IT, architectures, data, software development, my colleagues from the field of statistics had. And I always thought this is super important. And from that, also this field of data science then emerged, which in my opinion is a good mixture between this mathematical, statistical, algorithmical know-how and computer science, software development, architecture things.
So in Germany, we have a saying that goes Butter bei die Fische, butter to the fish. Now, how do you identify use cases at Continental?
Yeah, we are currently in a transition phase where we look at this topic much more serious than the years ago, because the years ago were kind of a seeding phase where we worked a lot like bottom up, spreading out the message, hey, AI is here, we can work with it. During that phase, it was a lot of enabling and entrepreneurial ambassador-driven stuff. So we just spread out. We went to people, to teams. We did ideation workshops. We asked people, hey, how do you work with data? What ideas do you have on data? We taught different teams across the whole organization of tires what AI can do, how to look at this topic. One, definitely everyone understands and knows one very important thing is to do lighthouse projects, specifically in this bottom-up phase. That was super important. We did several of them and promoted them, talked a lot, like in this podcast or in others. So talking about the topic is super important. And it's also important in that phase, I think, to not stop at the borders of your company, because specifically with such a big company, you see very often that people don't know you from internal context, but they learn about you on LinkedIn or whatever, some talk, some conference. And then they approach you and say, hey, you did this talk about whatever Continental, this and this use case. Can we talk about this? This happened very often over the past years.
But this was the past, right?
Yeah. This was the past. I wanted to do it chronological. So,
But Dubravko, what problems did you identify with this approach?
yeah, the biggest problem is that this is relying a lot on marketing, on word of mouth, on being active in that area, being also capable of doing this marketing in every kind of channel that you can imagine, internally, externally. And it leaves the whole topic of developing AI to random, which is, I think, the biggest problem. That you don't have a structured approach and you can't be assured that you meet the biggest and best use cases and that you really leverage the business value, which is in the application of AI and data science. That's the biggest problem, the biggest challenge here.
Okay. And do you have now a standardized process, or what is your idea now?
Yeah, we have aligned on a standardized process where ideation and consulting plays a big role. And we are currently, this is still underway. We are working on a standardization of this process where we introduce not only the process as such, so the process is important, like how do we do ideation? We create checklists where we can check out, okay, we talked about these things, we clarified certain preliminaries that you need to do to be clear that a use case is useful, not only a use case, also that a certain area could deliver value if you apply data and analytics and AI to it. We agreed on certain tools, methods like design thinking and things that you need to introduce there. So yes, we are standardizing this process.
But how do you do that?
You mean how the process then looks exactly?
Yeah, let's imagine I'm an engineer in your company and I have an idea. What do I do now? Call your department, or what is the idea now?
Yeah, the standard way there would be then that you actually get in touch with a central team. And that's the second thing we are doing besides the standardization of the process itself. We also try to standardize the organization, which is important. So we agreed that this needs to be a kind of a hybrid organization because, as you say, ideas can happen everywhere. And in the past, we saw that many people were left alone with the ideas and everywhere people started differently to work on this. So it's important to have a kind of a clearing organization, a clearing team, which can help you on sliding into this standard process. So we set up a team which consists out of experts, of data scientists, AI experts, who also have standard tools, standard methods, best practices, and so on and so forth. And people who have ideas can get in touch with this team to get the right consulting on how to evaluate an idea. That's very important. An idea needs to be evaluated, and it needs to be also evaluated in terms of certain dimensions, not only whether it's feasible, also in terms of business value, if it fits to a strategy. All these things need to be evaluated. And yeah, we bring the people there to get in touch with this team so that everyone goes kind of the same route, starting with an idea and having a good success to create a use case out of it.
But that's one way, maybe the best way, that an idea is born in the company. But how do you identify new ideas for AI approaches at Continental?
So new ideas, also there we have several approaches here. So we have the traditional innovation management that's still there, and that is not different from what we did before at all. So we have an innovation management, we have a portal where you can enter ideas, and these ideas then are routed to the corresponding people in the R&D, for instance. We have this AI teams also not on one level only. We have them on different levels. That's also very important. For instance, in the R&D area where many ideas are generated, new ideas are generated. We have an own data science team, and they take care of that. They are connected to the traditional innovation processes so that they get an idea of all the ideas. And these different levels are also connected. So there is not only one central team to catch all the ideas. That would be just not possible to do all these ideas. There are also data science teams on other levels, like for instance, in an R&D or in the manufacturing area or in the supply chain area. And all these teams are interconnected, so they have a common community and a common organization where they can exchange ideas so that we create the best possible network so that new ideas can penetrate the organization as fast as possible.
But what are the criteria? How do you develop them, these criteria? Is it a good innovation, or is it a good idea or a bad idea? Do you have a template, or what's behind this process?
Yes, we have a template which we worked out with several data scientists all across the organization, and also together with business and other players there who are interested, which were interested in the beginning in this topic. And this template tries to recognize several dimensions that you need if you want to understand the feasibility and the value of an idea. So these are already different dimensions here. So we have a template which consists out of kind of a lot of questions. I think it's like 40, 50 questions. And these questions are along different dimensions. So we look into the strategy. So we talk with people who are responsible for strategy, manager from a certain area, and we evaluate whether an idea, a use case idea, a data-driven idea belongs or plays into a certain strategy. Then we look into the technological dimension, which always is important. Do we have the right data? Is it feasible to do this idea at all? Do we have the right technological setup? What's the cost if we really look into the long range to maintenance of an idea, which is very important because this can be very, very different whether you do an idea for the manufacturing area, which can be complicated because you have more than 20 plants where you need to realize this idea, or whether you do it for, let's say, the marketing area, where you have a more centralized approach and also have more standard tools there. So the technological area is a very important dimension there. And then for sure, the business value, the business evaluation is the third dimension we are looking into, where we look into time to value, into the business value as such, into where the business value can be created, what kind also of business value, because it can be different. And that's also always a very big challenge, whether you directly create business value by leveraging, for instance, the income or the possibilities of selling our product, or whether you go into efficiencies or create some more leaner processes with AI or something like that. All these things are then evaluated in this third dimension.
Sorry for that, but is this a typical German approach? Because that sounds very bureaucratic for me.
It is bureaucratic, and we're pragmatic enough to think about when this is useful. This is also a good point, Robert. So, it might be very. I'm not sure if it's German, but it's
a corporate approach.
Yeah, it's a corporate, and I would also say it's an engineering approach because you want to be clear,
transparent.
Yeah, transparent and thorough. Also, you don't want to forget anything. And what's also clear is we want to be efficient, and we don't have resources like endless resources. We need to be clear on the resources. We need to balance between the different use cases. And there are so many ideas, specifically in those days. Over the past year, we realized that the ideas are growing more and more out of the people who are living the business, who are really there and doing things. They read about AI, they hear about AI, so they start to approach us instead of the other way around. So we need to balance between all these ideas and find the right resources there, and that's always tricky. So you need to really rank use cases and find out which one are more useful than others. And on top of that, you still want to be pragmatic. You still want to find new ideas, find out about these ideas. So what we try to do is that's specifically in this kind of expert team, we try to keep up some resources so that we always can look into new ideas to find out whether they are maybe super worthful or create some new aspect that we haven't had in mind before. So it's not like you create an idea and then you need to go into this bureaucratic phase, which would kill anything. So we always try to keep up a certain amount of resources with data scientists who can work on spontaneous ideas. That's super important to do that. Otherwise, you would kill any creativity here.
But how do you classify the use case? You mentioned this 3 dimensions on the template, but what is most important? Is it revenue or is it technological approach, or what is the most important point or the most important dimension?
As always, it depends. And that's why we have this third dimension of the strategy in there, because that really depends on the strategy of the different areas, and the perspective can be different. I mean, business value, sure, is always important, but how to measure business value can be very different. Yeah? In one area, it can be efficiency, really making a process more efficient by putting some visual AI in there to replace manual work. In other areas, it could be generating really a product which we can sell on top of our tires to create new revenue. So this is really very dependent from the strategy of the different teams, departments, and approaches. But sure, basically, we are a manufacturer. We create tires, and that's the core. The core still, and that's really super important. We are not there to create any software technology. We are not a tech company. We create tires, and that's the focus always. And in the end, we always think about, does this, what we do there, somehow account to our main goal, which is creating tires in the end?
I want to come back to your template once again, because you also document then the whole innovation process very, very smooth, I think, right?
That's a very important point, which we realized very soon in this bottom-up approach. One of the big advantages of running around and finding use cases everywhere and talking with the people was that we identified that people in different areas were working on very close to another projects or approaches, let's say approaches. And it was easy to, or in many cases, we found it easy to align these projects. For instance, you can work on preventing scrap from different angles. And if you look on it from an AI data perspective, then these angles are so close to each other that you can align them and create one approach out of it. Because you always work with data. And yes, there are different aspects to it, but you work on data. You use this data to prevent scrap in the end. And this is a huge advantage. And this is something we formalized now by really creating this repository. And with the repository, you have the chance to really look into which use cases are there. Is there someone else already working on a similar topic? This is an ongoing process. As I said, it's not completely yet there, but we're heading into that direction of creating such an overarching repository, which then is known to all data scientists, and from there can be spread out also to the users, to the engineers and marketeers and whatever, so that we all know who is working on what.
What problems do you need to solve
in this process?
Yep.
We started this kind of a year ago, and I think we already achieved a lot. We have the senior management awareness there. We have this support also. We have worked out the basic setup, how we want to go in which direction. What we still need to work out is the concrete setup with the different functions and regions we work. As a big company, you can imagine we have several areas. We have the markets in EMEA and the Asian region and the Americas regions and so on. We have the different functions of manufacturing, R&D, supply chain, and all that. And the concrete setup and the concrete also implementation of this setup in these different functions and regions, this is something we still need to do and to finalize.
I want to come back to your department. What role does your department play in this innovation process?
My team is kind of the expert team working on a lot of use cases, from there generating the specific experience of working across these different functions and areas, which is on the one hand difficult because this is not done in many different teams to have this broad view of across all the different functions, but which gives us also the specific insight of seeing the difficulties on where to get the data, aligning data between different departments. It's not completely unique to our team. Also, another team, like for instance, digital products, digital solutions, has these challenges. But we on top have this really broad view also on understanding the generic approaches of AI to all these different areas. So what we were able to is we created some best practices, some recommendations, templates on how to work with the AI. We also created tools. We provide also tools to work with AI. So if a new data scientist enters Conti Tires, he can go to a web page, an internal web page, find the information he needs on the first day, and he can work along. And after a couple of hours, or let's say the first day, he will be able to start his or her work because he knows which tool to use, how to connect to data, and so on and so forth.
What qualifications are in your team? Are Scrum Masters, data scientists, software engineers? Who is in your team?
Good question. We started very technical, very much coming from we want to solve problems. So no project managers, nothing in that direction. So actually the first colleague I hired was a software developer, computer scientist. And from there, we went out focusing on data science. So really on expertise in doing so. So programming, having skills with Python, R, all this tech stack, being able to connect to data sources, to get data, transform the data, and then getting something out of it, creating a dashboard, an API or something to deliver forecasts, classifications, whatever. We differentiated from there. By now we have more, we covered the different areas of data science and AI. So we have, for instance, experts who really concentrate on all this vision topics like deep learning with vision. We have experts on more the machine learning part who really concentrate also on the lot of manufacturing topics and R&D topics and so on. And we have already experts who focus very much on a lot of forecasting topics which come out of these areas like supply chain and sales, marketing, all these topics. But we also try to really mix not every now and then. So someone who knows forecasting can help also someone who is working in the manufacturing area on sensor data. Sensor data are also time dependent, so they can talk with each other, they can help each other. But still, it's a lot of technical expertise that we have. We just started to go into the direction to learn more of the project management stuff and steering projects instead of doing them only.
What happens when I went through the whole process? Who builds then my solution?
That's a good question, which again, sorry, it depends. We created a matrix on what kind of solution you have, because it's clear. You have a lot of solutions which are kind of self-serviced. We have data scientists. We have also, let's say, engineers who learn some Python who are very good at understanding how this whole thing works. And we have self-service solutions. So yeah, we have the means to help the guys to do something on their own. And then you have solutions where you need more IT. Then we are just kind of enabling team, which starts the whole thing, which understands what problem needs to be solved, which understands if it's feasible to do something there, and then creates maybe a prototype or an MVP or something like that. And then this goes into the, let's say, normal traditional process with an IT who then builds a real solution, an application out of this with all the means necessary, some operations, maintenance, ITSM, all the normal stuff. That's also a possibility. And then you also have the case where you still need, over the run of or the lifetime of an application, you need a lot of, let's say, data science support. So it's not just a, let's say, normal traditional IT application, but it's an application where the AI part plays a big role, where you need the model lifecycle management. And that's where my team again is involved there. Or the business guys have a data scientist or data scientists who can do that, who then do this model lifecycle management with all the observation and the data drift, model drift, all these things that you need to understand if you operate a model as such.
What would be your advice to the industrial sector to start a process like this at you did at Conti? What are maybe the first steps?
Well, if you start now, which is very late, I would say, but
yes,
if you start now, I really would recommend to start with right balance between a central team and the local enablers there. I think you can be faster if you have a central enabler team, and this enabler team should have a lot of power to also really do use cases, to execute them, to also help the different areas which are in your company to execute these use cases, implement them. And this is really very far reaching, because if you have a use case, it's nice to have it on your whatever environment and you show, hey, this AI algorithm can decide something. But in the end, you need to bring it into, let's say, machines. And that, and it can change the current processes. We made the experience very, very often that we have a cool solution, but to really implement it, it's not a technical question. It's a question of changing the process, because someone who worked in a certain process and in a certain way for a couple of years now needs to change this process. Maybe you need a different way to do things, or you need different people to do things. And this is far reaching. And to do so, you need a strong team which is able to discuss these things with the relevant people on the, let's say, industrial side.
So that's for the guys who want to start now. But what is your advice for these guys? They are already started to do POCs and share some ideas in their company. What is your advice to them?
Not far away from the other one. You should really start to enable experts in the field of AI to mingle with your processes. That's how it is. Yeah, they need to be able to discuss with the people in the field, in the processes, that you might need to change some of these processes. They need to be in there. And it needs to be a very, very good mix between the engineers who know what's going on and what problems need to be solved, and the AI experts who understand the technology side of things. And this is something really not easy, because I experienced it also at the Tires organization quite, not often, but it's there, that it's seen like, okay, the AI guys are some kind of aliens and they just need to tell us what we need to do and then they can go away again. This is not how it works. They really need to be in the process. They need to be introduced there and be very close, understanding what is going on. At the same moment, they also need to be very much intertwined and in a deep exchange with the rest of the AI community. So I think you will not be successful if you separate too much between, let's say, engineers doing a manufacturing process, as an example, and AI guys who are doing AI, quote unquote. This needs to be very much combined, because the data scientists need other data scientists to understand the technology, the methods and everything. We all know that. But on the same side, you need to be involved into the processes to understand what you need to change to be able to introduce some AI-based solutions.
Dubro, at the end, let's take a look at 3 use cases. What are your top 3 use cases from Continental?
So from the use cases, number 3 is, I have one from the very new Gen AI area, which is still not productive. We are working on it, but it's amazing already. We use this generative AI, the large language models, to retrieve very important information from documents. These documents are huge, like 100 pages, whatever. And traditionally, an engineer really needs to read through these documents. And we evaluated whether it's possible to retrieve important information from the documents by giving them to a large language model and then retrieve information from there. And it looks very interesting, very promising that we will be in the future able to use the RAG methodology and large language models to make this process much faster.
It's a Mistral or it's a Llama?
We have a software which allows us to use all of these models and deploy them like in an instance. And we compare different models here. I can't say something on the best model now, but we compare all of them.
Okay. Second place.
Second place is a very nice software we worked on for a couple of years, which is able to support you with the tire maintenance. So we have a software you can use on your mobile phone, not for the end user, it's more for the fleet business and such, which can read the sidewall information. So all these numbers on the sidewall, there's a lot of stuff there. It can give you the brand name and the dimension, so that you know which tire you have, basically. And it can also read the grooves. So instead of having a coin, which you traditionally have to read whether your tire has still enough profile, you can use this app and it shows you it has 7 point whatever millimeter groove depth.
So it's a vision approach.
It's a vision approach, yes.
Yes. And first place.
First place is a very nice software we start to roll out now, which helps us on the final finishing. So the quality control at the end of the tire tire building process where you look onto the tire to find whether there are some faults, like a little blister or some crack or something, which now can be done with a visual AI-based product.
Dubro, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for your insight in your organization and how you identify AI approaches, AI use case. It was a pleasure. Greetings to Rosenheim.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me.